So hello, everyone. My name is Andrey. Like Vesa mentioned, I'm Vesa's teammate. My focus at Microsoft really is on OneDrive and SharePoint web performance initiatives. And that includes progressive web apps and Project Nucleus, which I'll mainly talk about today. So let me share a slide with you, just to give you an introduction what Project Nucleus is if you're not familiar with it. So let me start off by introducing what is Project Nucleus. So in its simplest form, Project Nucleus is a new client-side component that we developed that runs alongside OneDrive Sync app that you all might be familiar with. And what Project Nucleus really allows us to do, it allows us to supercharge existing OneDrive and SharePoint web applications like Microsoft Lists, for example, or OneDrive, by providing consistently fast and smooth experiences, even on slower networks or lower-end devices. So the important word here is consistently fast. So we want to make sure that every single user on all kinds of networks and all kinds of devices can get the very best speed and very best performance when interacting with OneDrive and SharePoint web applications. Additionally, Nucleus allows our customers to really seamlessly work with very, very large and complex data sets that are made available through our web app. So a good example of that is a Microsoft list that has hundreds of thousands of rows and performing operations on those items in a fast and efficient manner. But more impressively, Project Nucleus allows web apps it integrates with to continue working when offline. And by offline, I really mean that any changes that are made to the web app itself will sync back to the cloud once reconnected to the network. And what Project Nucleus really offers here is really far beyond what progressive web apps by themselves can offer today. So Project Nucleus, in combination with progressive web apps, provides really rich offline experiences that allow both browsing and editing. So the progressive web app part is really responsible for rendering the app when you're offline, but where Project Nucleus comes in is making that app fully interactive and usable. And so the high-level diagram on this slide really just outlines how Nucleus makes it all possible. So Project Nucleus runs on a local device. Currently, it's only supported on Windows devices, but soon support for macOS devices will be coming as well. And so essentially, it runs alongside the OneDrive Sync app that you already have installed. And then Project Nucleus links with the web app by making a smart cache of the web app data on that local device. And once it's linked, Project Nucleus acts as the local web server by serving that data to the web app instead of the web app asking for that data from the cloud. So you eliminate the network from the equation of getting the data into the web app. And Project Nucleus uses really the same APIs that the web app uses today when reading and writing from the cloud. And so this allows us to handle offline editing scenarios where the web app updates are written to the local cache first when you're offline, and then they're uploaded to the cloud once the connection is restored. So again, this is a kind of simplistic diagram, but it should give you a high-level overview of what actually Project Nucleus is doing and where that component is residing. And so the very first web application that's integrated with Project Nucleus is Microsoft Lists, and it brings a lot of improvements to everyday lists experience. And I'll show you a demo of what that looks like in just a little bit. But first, it means that you can now load the List app and view and edit list data when you're offline. Second, loading and interacting with lists just got a whole lot faster, whether you're online or offline. And finally, views inside the list never get throttled. So essentially, Project Nucleus allows to bypass all the service-imposed throttling that might be imposed on very, very large lists of very, very large data sets. And in short, the lists are always on with Nucleus. They're lightning fast and do not experience service-imposed throttling. So these are really kind of like the three main benefits that Project Nucleus brings to lists today. So while Project Nucleus is only powering Microsoft List web app for now, we have definitely plans to bring its benefits to other web apps as well. So stay tuned for more updates in this space. So now let me demonstrate you the experiences that Project Nucleus enables in lists. Let me share my browser window with you.
So Andrew, just a reminder, you can't demo the offline experience today. Just kidding. Just kidding. So.
yeah, exactly.
You can simulate that, but don't unplug your computer.
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's the challenge with demoing this feature. Is offline is very, very tricky to demo in a live meeting. But I prepared a little video for you that demonstrates how it all works. So let me first kind of show you what kind of Project Nucleus is in the context of a Microsoft list web app. So over here, I have a very large list that has 20,000 items in it. I could have easily kind of created the list that had 200,000 items if I wanted to, but that's the list that I have. It's still a very, very large list. So it looks just like the list that you're used to. The only thing that's really different with this list is that now it's powered by Project Nucleus. And then one easy way to tell that that list is now special is by the presence of this little icon over here. That just indicates that this list is in sync. So all it really means is that the data for this list is stored in a local smart cache. And so I can still work with this list just before. I can sort the data, I can group the data, and you can see that everything just happens really, really fast. And so this is what Project Nucleus really enables. So all of these operations that I just performed actually never even were executed against the cloud APIs. All of them were done locally. And so just so you can understand what's actually happening behind the scenes, let me open the DevTools and kind of show you what's really happening here. So let's just sort by purchase data against older to newer. And now let's examine the API call that was made. So this is one of the main APIs that we use to display list data and perform list operations. It's called render list data stream. So if I open it, so here where the magic is happening. So if you look at the request URL, so this request never even was made over the network. So it actually went to the local secure web server that is essentially Project Nucleus, and it handled that request, retrieved the data from the smart cache, and served it back up to the app. And so that what really powers those really fast interactions, because the network is no longer the bottleneck. But where Nucleus truly shines is by enabling like fully offline scenarios in Microsoft List. So for that, unfortunately, I can't disconnect from the network because I'll be dropped from the call. But let me just show you what it looks like in a video that I prepared, interacting with the exact same list, but when disconnected from the network. So let me switch my screens. And present. All right. What I'm going to demonstrate now is really interacting with the list, working with the list while I'm offline, and then what happens to the changes that I made offline once I reconnect back to the network. So take a look. So again, this is the exact same list that I just showed you a second ago. So now I'm going to go into airplane mode, which is going to disconnect my network. And now you can see some functionality was grayed out. So that means it's just not accessible offline, such as copying link. So now I'm just going to edit a simple item, just change its condition, click save. Now you can notice that the icon changed, and now it indicates that the change was recorded in this local smart cache, but hasn't been uploaded yet to the cloud because we're offline. Now I can continue working with the list. I can filter stuff, and again, it looks like as if I'm connected, but I'm fully offline. So now when I reconnect back to the network, so you can see the sync icon status changes again, and now all of those local changes have been uploaded to the cloud, and the list is now in sync. And so everyone can see all the changes that you made offline. So this is roughly how it works when you're fully disconnected from the network. And again, that's where the power of progressive web apps and Project Nucleus come into play, is that it really offers those immersive offline experiences that really give you the power to work on your web apps in any situation, be it on the plane or on a train, when you don't have reliable network connection. So that's all I had for today. Just give you a quick overview of what Project Nucleus is, what are we doing with it, and some of the first integrations that Project Nucleus is powering when it comes to integrating Microsoft lists.
So a lot of questions in the chat. I guess we can go through or pretty much most of them because we do have time for that. There's some duplicates as well. I've been capturing them on the here, but 1 second. So let's start with is there a maximum storage Nucleus can use on a local disk?
No, we don't have any current limitations on the storage space. So that's something that we've heard you as our customers ask about, whether that can be exposed as a admin-based control to basically specify the quota that Project Nucleus can use on the local disk space. But for now, we don't hard cap it because the amount of disk space used is very small. So I have dozens of lists, and all of them are pretty large and complex. And the amount of disk space taken up by that local smart cache is just around 100 to 150 megabytes. And again, that local smart cache is always in sync with the list that you have access to. So essentially, it's your list or the list that somebody shared with you. So the moment that somebody stops sharing a list with you or you delete a list, that data is purged from the local smart cache. So it's never going to kind of balloon out of proportion, right? So it's always kind of in sync with your what we refer to as kind of the working set of lists.
Yeah. And related on that one, actually, so really good question, which came up actually numerous times already. So how are the conflicts handled when two people edit the same list and probably same items offline and then sync? So how is that happening then?
Yeah, so in general, the approach that we follow is that the last writer wins, so to speak. But there's obviously scenarios where you can't apply this strategy universally. So for example, if I and Vesa are working on the same list, so I happen to disconnect from the network, Vesa is still connected, and Vesa deletes a column that I happen to be editing offline. And so once I reconnect back to the network, and then Project Nucleus is trying to upload that change, that column no longer exists. So that's an obvious conflict, right? And so for cases like that, we built a special UI that's available within the list web app that will notify you in cases where there are merge conflicts, and then we give you the option to either dismiss this conflict and just accept the server change, or you can manually update the list with the value that was stored and provided for you in the conflicts UI.
Which is basically how files editing work as well with OneDrive, right? So if there are conflicting edits, for example, in PowerPoint slides, and you're doing them in OneDrive, and then whenever you're connected, it will actually show you that, hey, there's a conflict which I cannot resolve. So please fix these things. Which relates actually on one question which came up, which is, what about files? But what about files? I'm sorry, it's basically OneDrive for business and OneDrive. Isn't that the case?
Sorry, Ves, can you repeat it again?
Yep. So what about files? We're talking about lists here, but the answer for files is basically just OneDrive for business, right? You're working, OneDrive for business takes care of that. And Andrey Esipov Andrey, you've been working in OneDrive for quite a long time, right? So you have some history there as well.
Yeah, and then underlying sync mechanics are very close to what the sync app offers today. So it's it's obviously not one-to-one mapping, but a lot of the work and a lot of the resilience that we built into the sync app over the years, that we essentially inherited that with Project Nucleus. So we still have the same robustness built into the sync engine that is behind Project Nucleus.
Yeah, and then there was a question related on 5,000 view threshold. So is that then now gone? How does this impact on that?
So that no longer applies to lists that are powered by Project Nucleus. So again, you can work with the lists that have upwards of 250,000 items. That's kind of like the soft cap that we will impose just for now. Eventually, we'll raise that limit, but the 5,000 list item throttle limit no longer applies, and that's kind of like one of the benefits that Nucleus offers to lists, to large lists.
Finally. That's been a long road and long-lasting limitation, so to say. Now, is there a timeline when this is rolled out or rolling out?
So stay tuned. So more exciting news will be shared during Ignite just next week. So
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Maybe when we have the watch party of Satya's keynote on the exact same time as this one call for a week from now. So a reminder for everybody, the week from now community call is a watch party of Satya's keynote. So we will not have a competing demos. There's no point for doing that. Now, there was a question, will the Project Nucleus be working in GCC tenants and the licensing requirements? Is there anything, or is this coming as part of the SharePoint Online service then?
Let me try to find the exact question just to make sure that.
So first of all, that was two questions combined, so I'm kind of causing you a headache. So will Project Nucleus work in a GCC tenant? So basically governmental tenant. Is there any limitations?
Yeah. So for now, we're not enabling it in government tenants, but we can reconsider it in the future. But at the time of initial release, no.
Okay. And is there any license requirements for Project Nucleus?
No, nothing special.
Okay, so it's part of E3, kind of a part of the baseline services which you're getting as you're using Microsoft 365. Now, you might actually, people in this call, I think it's fair to say, you might be like, well, why are you giving all of this awesomeness for free? Well, this actually benefits us as well because it reduces the frequency as the client is hitting server. So it has a positive impact on the CPU on server side. So it's a win-win for both sides, so to say. Now, there's a question from Shao Mendes, which is where the smart cache is saved, in IndexedDB, or what's the technical details behind of it, if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's stored in a SQLite database. So like whenever you get a chance to kind of play with lists that are powered by Project Nucleus, once we officially announce it, you can find the cached data under OneDrive settings directory in the Windows. So if you know where it is, it's under your local app data. There's going to be a separate folder for Microsoft lists, and then you can find the smart cache residing over there. And again, it's stored in a SQLite database.
Cool. I'm watching all the questions and new questions. So first of all, will this work in the managed metadata columns and complex column types as well, or is there some sort of limitations on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I didn't mention was that so Project Nucleus currently does not support every single list type. So some list types are excluded from being eligible by being powered by Project Nucleus, but we're working every week on kind of bridging the eligibility gaps. So there's a few restrictions. For example, currently calculated columns, lists with calculated columns or validation formulas, or that support folder creation, they're not eligible by default to be powered by Nucleus. But that support is coming very soon.
So we're looking into having the complex column type supported as well in the future. Yeah. That's actually really, really cool. Now, there was also a question just to clarify things, that is this working also then in a normal team site? So any list in SharePoint, not just Microsoft lists, or is it dependent on just on Microsoft lists, or how? No,
so it works. Yeah, it works. It works for any lists. So inside, if it's embedded inside of a SharePoint site, it should work as well.
Makes sense. And then there's a quick set of questions related on Mac OS support and mobile support. Any updates on those?
So Mac OS is definitely, adding support for Mac OS devices is definitely on our roadmap. So that's hopefully will be coming soon. Mobile, it's not yet on our roadmap, but we're still evaluating whether that's what scenarios make sense for us to enable through Project Nucleus in the mobile context. But we're definitely heard about the requests here.
Cool. That's really good as well. Then there was questions related on list item comments. Are those included in the data which is getting replicated?
Comments, I believe we don't support them just yet, but they will be added shortly. I'll need to double check. So we still have a number of eligibility restrictions. Can't quite remember if comments are already supported or not.
Well, I believe anyway, we're looking.
I believe we're looking into that. Will be coming in shortly.
And then we still have a few minutes, so I can actually have a few more questions. But there was a really good question from Sydney Thornton, which is, can you speak about the security if your laptop dies or is stolen, about the data which is being locally stored?
So again, it's the data is specific to you, so it's basically linked to your user account. So if your user account is compromised, I mean, there is a potential for getting access to the data. But again, if your user account is compromised, you know, the malicious actor can get to your list data by going to the web app directly and using the exact same credentials to get access to the data. And it's much more accessible, right, in the web app. You really need to understand like where that local cache is, what it is, make sense of it. And again, it's tied to the user account. So when the data is at rest, and all the interactions between the web app and the local web server, which is, you know, part of the main components of Project Nucleus, all of that is encrypted. Yeah. So we're
like the data which is stored locally is encrypted in certain level as well. So it's not just as long as you plug in the hard disk, you can get access to it. So
yeah.
And especially, for example, in Microsoft, every single hard disk will need to have the BitLocker on. So that means that getting access on the hard disk doesn't mean that you can get access of any of the data. So good. I'm probably missing most of the questions we actually went through. What about geolocation fields? That groups into the, let's say, the central or the overall complex field type. So in progress to potentially support in future.
I assume you're referring to latitude, longitude.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be already supported.
Cool. Really good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And let me just kind of say the majority of list types are supported. It's just some list types. Specifically, you know, the big buckets are the columns that have calculated values. So if you have a formula to calculate a value in the column, you have some validation formulas. These are kind of the biggest chunks of list types that we are not yet supporting, but that support is coming very soon.
Yeah. And then two more, because there's good questions. So first of all, API available for developers to maybe take advantage. And then Hassem is asking Power Apps and Nucleus. Any options over there?
I mean, we definitely hear requests and desire for API access to Nucleus, and that's definitely like part of our roadmap. And we really want to figure it out. How can we offer Nucleus as a platform and provide third-party API access? Currently, we don't provide it yet because it's still a new component that we're basically just now making available to the public. But that's definitely part of our kind of overall roadmap and vision for Nucleus as a platform. We want to make it accessible to third-party app developers as well.
Cool. But not immediately. And then there was the Power Apps and Nucleus. So it's Nucleus only related on SPO and OneDrive, at least for now, and then potentially future somewhere else. Any plans on that?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar answer. So for now, we are tackling the OneDrive and SharePoint web apps first. So we're integrating with all of our mainstream web applications, and eventually we want to open it up for kind of broader access and for some new scenarios as well.
Cool. Thank you, Andrew. Really good stuff. Absolutely brilliant to have an overview, and then having the Q&A always helps to cover all of the things which people are thinking.